Have the young people in Ireland finally realised they're being lied to? As each passing day goes on here in Ireland, more and more people, more and more Irish people are waking up, are realising that things are going very, very badly wrong here in Irish society. And on foot of that, they're starting to seek out channels like mine and many other similar channels on YouTube and on various other platforms to see what's the alternative view, because they're not getting the reasoning, they're not getting the reasons for this shift, this change from RTE or for News Talk or for the Irish Times or the mainstream media in general. They're telling them, no, everything's fine. It's all fine and dandy. Everything is business as usual. If you notice anything, it's probably just you. But people are thinking, no, it's not just me. And then they listen to people like me and other channels of similar content, and they realise, no, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one, because other people are seeing and noticing what I'm seeing and noticing, that Irish society is going downhill, is regressing, is getting more dangerous, is getting more dysfunctional, is changing in ways that are absolutely unprecedented in the history of Ireland and the Irish. So more and more people are waking up to that, and you see that in stark evidence by the mass protests that have happened and are going to continue to happen, in my view, with ever-increasing frequency and with ever-increasing numbers. The sea of tricolours is going to be the default setting for our protests, and it's only a question of time before the government, kicking and screaming, will be dragged to the realisation that they can't ignore this anymore. Now, whilst a lot of that noticing is people like me, my age, people younger, maybe in their 30s or 20s, and people older, possibly in their 70s, 80s. What about the youth? What about the youth? The youth who may be in the education system right now or approaching the end of the education system. Well, let me say this. The education system in Ireland, as it is currently constructed, is an absolute abomination. The education system is little more than indoctrination. That's what it is. It's having the young people from 4 or 5 years of age right up until they're 16 or 17. And the state is now pummeling them with leftist, Marxist, crazy, wokeist ideas, talking points and agendas. They are intent now to indoctrinate the youth, full on. And not in a sense of Irishness, as was in my day, a sense of nationhood, as was in my day, a sense of love for culture, a sense of love for the history, a love of ancestors. No, that's all been deemed old hat. We don't need that anymore. That doesn't fit with the grand, glorious EU, European Union, Ursula von der Leyen project. So that's got to go in the bin. What we're going to teach the youth today is they're going to teach them about climate issues. They're going to teach them about LGBT issues. They're going to teach them that their ancestors were flawed people, possibly even bad people, that Irish history doesn't matter, and if you read it at all, it should be through a lens of they were backward people. They didn't know much. They were very uneducated. The great unwashed. You've nothing to learn from them. We're all very new and shiny now. We're all Europeans now. The tricolour. Don't fly that flag. That means nothing. You should be flying the EU flag to be modern. That's what we want you to be, modern. Don't worry about that old tricolour. Again, it's backwards. People didn't know better back in the day. This is the indoctrination that's going on right now in the Irish curriculum. That's being force-fed, that's being injected, hooked into the vein and given intravenously to children in Ireland from the age of 4 or 5 up until their late teens. And it's done purposely. It's done purposely because they want to obliterate what came before. And I speak to young people on occasion, and their sense and view of the old Ireland, even the Ireland I grew up in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, is so skewed it almost frightens me. It frightens me. What they think it was like versus what it was like, and I should know because I was there. And that's purely because of what they are being taught in schools. So I and many others are worried. Well, we were worried. I mean, what kind of product is coming out at the end of this indoctrination camp? And you'd be forgiven for thinking, as I would, that they'd be immersed totally and they'd have bought it or imbibed it. Because when you're in your formative years, not like when you get older, more mature, and you've experience of life and various facets of life, you could pick the wheat from the chaff. When you're 10, you just know what you're told by authority figures. The same as when you're 6, and the same even when you're 14 or 15, although you should be kind of kicking the shins at the authority figures by then. But if you're relentlessly force-fed a diet of nonsense, well then you would be, of course, forgiven for at least starting your adult career full of this imbibed nonsense. But something came up there yesterday, and it's floating around the Ethernet, that filled my heart with joy. Because maybe, and let's hope, the young people of Ireland aren't buying it. They're not having it. Oh, they're being inculcated, they're being carpet bombed with nonsense, woke nonsense, open borders nonsense, multiculturalism is our strength nonsense. But maybe they're looking around them and maybe they're thinking to themselves, you know what? This is all bollockology. It doesn't work. I'm being force-fed a gruel, slop, nonsense. Now, we're going to watch a video that I saw, and I think you should see it too. And I don't know who this young man is, but as the saying goes, I like the cut of his jib. Because if he is in any way indicative or representative of the youth of Ireland today, then my cup runneth over with joy. Because maybe the propaganda, maybe the indoctrination, maybe the whole deluge of nonsense isn't having the effect they'd like it to. And wouldn't that be marvellous?
I don't care if I get cancelled off TikTok. This is something that really needs to be addressed, and this is not our country anymore. I went around the whole of Dublin nearly over the last few months, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. For the women in Dublin and the men in Dublin and the kids in Dublin, we need to stand together. We need to fight this. If the government isn't helping, this is where we need to take action. Myself personally, would not help to organise a protest. But if there's someone out there that would like to organise a protest, I want you to do that. I want you to do that for Ireland, for the kids, for the women, for the men, for the nannies, for the granddads, for everyone in Ireland, for everyone's safety. We need to take action and do our own little thing. We need to stop this from happening. The government isn't listening to what we have to say, so we need to make them listen. By make them listen, I don't mean in a violent way. In a peaceful way, we need to make Ireland listen. We need to make Ireland great again. Coolock got them out. And now, in Dublin 8, they are trying their hardest to get their people out as well. But that's not enough. We need our country out. We need our whole nation to come together for one of the biggest protests in Ireland, and that Ireland's ever seen, in 2025. Let's stop this from happening. I'm a youngster speaking from my heart. So if you want to come for me, for speaking out and being honest, feel free to come for me. But this is just my opinion.
Bravo, that young man. Bravo. Well said, well spoken. And if that is any indication, if that is any slight indication of how the youth, youngest members of Irish society are thinking, then I am heartened, I'm gladdened. It fills my heart with joy. Because let me tell you, young man, I don't know who you are or where you hail from, that many, many people, in fact, most Irish people, feel the way you feel. See what you have seen in your everyday life. And let me just say, as a Gen Xer, an old codger, a Gen X stands with you. The boomer generation stand with you. Millennials stand with you because they can't get a home. It's all gone wrong, guys. And you Zoomers, or whatever the new generation are called, I don't know precisely because, well, I'm an old codger. I'm not supposed to know. We're all in this together, guys. We are all in this together. We are united across generations because we are Ireland. We are the spirit, the very essence of Ireland. Be it this young man here, an old codger like me, the elderly generation, or anybody in between, man, woman, or child. So I say bravo, well spoken, and there will be protests, and you're very welcome to march with me and everyone else who's there under the tricolour. And if that young man ever wants to talk to me, he can on this channel. The spirit of Eire is not dead. Oh, we're only getting started. Empires have tried to crush us before, and it didn't end well for them.